Hey listener, welcome to 1000 Routes. I'm your host, Nick Bennett. In each episode, we explore the uncommon paths of solopreneurs who have bet on themselves and the reality of what it takes to build a business that serves your life. And if you want to change your own route, you can check out Full Stack Solopreneur, our 90-day group coaching program that has helped dozens build clear, compelling offers that you can market and sell with confidence. You can join now at fullstacksolo.com. That's fullstack, SOLO.com. Enjoy the episode. I feel like I've been orbiting you and your content for a really, really long time. And I had to go back and look because as long as I could remember, you've been out on your own. I had to go back and look, and you came from Metadata, and you were running content for them for a little over a year. And then you decided at some point to leave there or exit Metadata in some way and then go out on your own. And one of the first things you did was the content repurposing roadmap. That's kind of how I first got introduced to you and what you're doing. So let's just start with, what was your motivation to go solo versus getting another job in the first place?
So with the content repurposing roadmap, so that's a course for anybody who's listening who isn't sure. Like, I just built the course. This was while I was at Metadata, actually. So I built the course and it was just like a passion project. Like, I needed something. It was 2021 into 2022, which is hard to remember now, but that was still not fun times. So I just needed something fun to do, which I'm a sicko like that. So fun for me was like, I'll build a course. Like, why not? So I actually built the course over the holiday sort of break in between that time, and ended up just like, I wanted to try to get into like the space of like selling stuff. People would always want to pick my brain about these things. I had like just come off of a really good experience of doing a lot of repurposing at Metadata. And so I was like, I'm just going to try this. Turned out to be way more successful than I ever thought, for me anyway. And people still buy the, like literally this week, somebody bought the course. I'm like, man, I built that thing years ago and people still buy it. It's everybody who's taken it, or a vast majority of people are like, which is funny, but like, it's really impressive you could build a course that's still like that evergreen.
The fact that it's relevant 2 years later.
Yeah, it's high level concepts, but it's also very practical. Like, it's very practical. Anyway, so I did that while I was working at Metadata. And then the funny thing is, and I've been public about this, like the Metadata split was not one that I chose. Like, that was chosen for me. So tech layoff, heyday, 2022 into 2023, I got stuck in part of that. And so I had like dreamed of doing my own thing. Like, I remember like really when I was at Metadata, it became apparent of like, oh, that's a thing you can do. Like, people like can build an audience, you can start to monetize that audience. Like, and I didn't even really tap into like I was doing that. But after I got laid off, I did a post and it was just like incredibly, incredibly humbling, but like a flood of like inbound of like, we need a content marketer. We need help with this. Hey, reach out to me, reach out to. And so I ended up just taking some consulting gigs on the side. And while I was interviewing for other jobs, and honestly, what pushed me over the edge to go on I was just so jaded. Like, I was so jaded by the startup world but I know software. I've been in software for my entire career. And I was like, I just needed like a break. And it was like really fork in the road moment of me. Like, I remember like keep going back into it in my head. And it was like, I would like destroy myself if I never found out if I could do it. Like I can always go get it. Like, I could go get a full-time job today if I wanted to. There's always the option to go get a full-time job. And I just knew my personality of like, that's a 3 to 5 year goal. That's going out on my own. I'll go out on my own in 3 to 5 years. But I know if I didn't have that forcing function of like having to make that choice, I probably wouldn't. I guarantee you I wouldn't have done it. My
experience reflects a lot of yours. Like, I didn't choose to do it in the same way, which was like, I was restructure, you find yourself without a job, and then you're kind of like, well, what should I do right now? I'm wondering if you did this. Did you look at like 2 job postings and you were like, 2,000 applicants? There's got to be a better way to earn some money around here. And so I looked and I said, this isn't for me. And I decided this was how I was going to monetize my life. So there's a lot of people who I've spoken with. There's really only these two extremes. There's people like us that are, you find yourself in this position and you have a choice to make, or there's people who get to fade in the most intentional, perfect way. There's this little glide path that they take and somehow, and it works out somehow. But I like that you had this passion project, this whole content repurposing roadmap. You had built that with, it sounds like, no intention to go out on your own and have that.
Not with that concept. No, it was like maybe 6 to 8 months in. I also at the same time made the very hard shift in my external, like that spring, I started a newsletter. That's when I really started building media around repurposing and distribution, because I just built it all off the course. And I became to get like asked to come on podcasts and talk about it. And people would always pick my brain, like, hey, can I, what's your system like? How do you, and so that's when it started to click in my brain. The more people I talked to, it was like, people aren't doing this. Companies aren't doing it. I know for a fact, like, these companies aren't doing it. Marketers are burned out. There's a better way to do this. And that, once I got laid off, that's when I was like, oh, I could do that. And like, that's when the light bulb clicked, was like, oh, I actually have some IP here that I could do something with.
It's a fantastic niche down. Like, I am a fan of the niche through and through, and I advocate everybody does it because it makes life so much easier. And how did you kind of land on repurposing as the thing you wanted to become known for, and kind of how did you even work up the courage to do it, like plant your flag in? Because so many people are scared of picking a thing, and you were doing it. It seems like it's just, you're very synonymous with this concept, and the recall you've built is, I think, pretty amazing. And so how did you pick this thing? What was the process like for you to go into it?
Yeah, that's really funny. So I just did a training inside the Distribution First membership for the crew in there, and it was on POVs and like building your own unique point of view in the marketplace. And I went back and I started to look at like, what did I used to talk about? And I actually had some posts from 2020, 2021, like about repurposing content. And they were pretty popular. Like, people took it. So I had like these, it wasn't something I talked about all the time, but it was something I talked about enough, and people were like signaling. And I also could see, because I was at that point on LinkedIn constantly, and I could see it was like, I talked about it every once in a while, and then Ross Simmons talked about it all the time, and that was it. Like, there was nobody else that was talking about distribution, nobody else that was talking about repurposing, even though everybody knows they should be doing it. And so I found a little bit of gray area there. And then what really triggered it was when I went to metadata, and I went from a team of 10 people when I was at TechSmith to a content team. Like, we had full-time YouTube people, full-time SEO people, full-time social people, to metadata, where I'm marketer number 3, and I'm running content with a couple freelancers and trying to like make it feel as big and as bad as a team of 10. And so that's when the repurposing side came in, and I just ran a playbook that I talk about inside Content Repurposing Roadmap, and it worked. And so then once that worked and I had validation internally, then it was kind of easy, because like, I got passionate about it. We were passionate about it at metadata. Like, we don't have to create so much stuff. Like, they were creating, like, we'd come in on Mondays when I first got hired in there, and it was like 4 new things per week. And so it was just like, all right, let's pause this, because we don't need that much to get out there. And so what we need is consistency. We need an engine that the audience can come to get to know. And so just built that out. And so once I had validation and I got passionate about it, that was the other thing too, right? Like, when we talk about POVs and what made me want to go into it, it's like, I got passionate about it, which means I can talk about it forever, and I can speak to it from my own experiences. So I'm not making it up off of somebody else's experience, and I'm not like glomming onto a trend that I'm not, don't have any experience in. And then again, like, for me, it's funny. I don't even know if I've told Ross this, because I've chatted with Ross a bunch, but like, I stopped following Ross for a while, because like, I don't even want Ross's ideas to like bleed over into mine. It's funny, but I was like, I want my ideas around this to be put out there. And so even if there's crossover, I don't want to feel like I'm somehow copying him or something like that. So, but yeah, I think for me, the two things were like experience and passion, because it was like, what can I talk about all the time? And then it just kind of became like a running joke inside my own head of like, I'm still talking about this 3 years later. Like, what's going on?
You're repurposing content about repurposing
I
content.
guess, yeah.
We all find ourselves in this like meta loop of our work. It's interesting, man. There's something to be said for doing something that you enjoy enough that when you wake up every morning and put your feet on the floor, you are excited to go do it. And there's this weird space people find themselves in where if they're not doing something as specific as the way that you're approaching it, they think this is so one-dimensional that I will get easily bored of it because it's just this one thing. And then they say, well, I'm going to do a whole bunch of things, but that's also exhausting in a different type of way. And because it doesn't have guardrails, it's hard to visualize where you're trying to go with it. And so I think the theme that I'm picking up from all the people that I'm talking with about this stuff is that the tighter, more specific you can be, the easier it is for you to really love it and evolve that thing. Like you say, I didn't have to follow people talking about repurposing and distribution as a concept in order to really push the category or push the thinking forward. And I think it's really hard to do that if it's unclear or it's just too big of a concept or too big of an idea to work with.
Yeah, and I think the reality of it too is it's pretty brutal out there if you're a company, and it's pretty brutal if you're out there on your own too, right? Like I know when I'm going up if I'm going up head to head for a contract, how many content marketers are there out there? Hundreds of,
Thousands.
Content marketing consultants to come help you or whatever, you know what I mean? Like tons of them. But the cool thing about, in hindsight, like building out and is probably ignorance or, being naive to it. But like when I built the niche, I was still in house. And so like there was no fear of building a niche because it was like, whatever. Like I wasn't trying to like build services or businesses off of it. I've since had to learn how to do that. But now it's like I get people who come in cold and they want distribution help for their, it's like so specific. It's, and it's just such an easier conversation to have because they know the problem. They know they need help with it. Sometimes there's timing issues, sometimes there's budget issues, et cetera. But like, they know they need they know they need help with it.
And they know you get the problem better than anybody else. That's a huge, huge part of this.
Yeah. And I was just say that's the key to me is like, I don't even worry about somebody like typing in, distributions. Or it's like, there's only a handful of people on the planet that are focusing on this right now. So,
oh, exactly. And then are doing it in the way that you're doing. Like you said, there's Ross Simmons is out there. He has a distribution model or playbook that he runs. Yeah, there's people in your line of work, but when you unpack it, if they want what he does, it's something different at the end of the day. And there's really no competition. It's a choice to make. And I think there's this fear that like, oh, how can I compete with someone like Ross Simmons? You don't have to compete with him and still have a similar point of view on the way things should be.
I know for a fact, because that's the other thing too. And it was hard at the beginning, definitely at the beginning of starting my own thing where it was like that's, and it's even hard from time to time now, like scarcity mindset sets in where it's like, oh, if somebody else does good, that means that, and it's like, no, like I legit had a conversation with Ross like months after I started. And he's like, dude, there is enough out there for all of us.
The world needs more people like you and Ross and there's plenty of people in my line of work and the world needs more people like that. So yeah, abundance mindset for sure, man. So in the beginning of going out on your own, I think oftentimes the smallest, like the little things make you second guess whether or not you should do it or you should just go back and apply for a job. What were those things for you?
Oh my gosh, man. So many things. I mean, offers, what to sell. I think maybe some of the biggest of like, because I had a course to sell, but then it's like, how do you package it up into a service? And then what does that service look like? Do I sell this as like, because literally depending on what you need, I mean, and you know this, I'm sure from your stuff, like you could coach somebody through it in an hour or you could coach somebody through it in 3 months. Or 6 months, it just depends on the engagement. And so those were some of the biggest sticking points early on, as well as like, because I had just come off the heels of being basically like 5 years as a head of content. And so it's like, do I pick up head of content roles? Do I like, which are more expansive? And I've done some of that and it's fine. But I think, and then, oh my gosh, every imaginable thing about starting a business, like healthcare and LLC versus and that, and like incorporating and taxes and like just all the things that come with starting your, like, it's a mess. I went from being a content marketer to being an entrepreneur, which means I'm doing everything. Sales. I didn't know anything about sales. I didn't know anything. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm just learning everything on the fly.
Yeah, I think the healthcare battle is, I heard John Benini say this recently. He was like, I am the worst version of myself when I'm on a government healthcare website trying to do this thing, trying to figure this out for my family. And it couldn't be more true. Like I went through the same thing. And yet, like, to your point, there's all these little things that you don't realize. You're like, oh, I'm just going to go out and sell my expertise, like easy peasy. And then they're like, wait, taxes? How do I calculate that? They're like, well, how much time do you have?
Right. And that was a good one too. Like, cause what was funny about me when I started the business technically, let's say November of 22. And so I had 2 months where I was making money consulting after metadata. And so my taxes, and I didn't take anything out for taxes. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, I don't know, whatever. I'm just making money.
Yeah.
And so then I go get my taxes done. And like, so all of this extra you made at the end of the year, like, I hope you saved some. And I was like,
what's up with that money?
Not purposefully, but now I have to give you a big check with this money that I thought was my buffer for, you know what I mean? Like, that was a reality check of like, now I'm writing, a 5-figure, check to the government.
Yeah, it adds up quick. So you talked about the course and you talked about running consulting services. How many iterations of your service offering did you go through before you found like something that worked and was really at least going to be the core or the thesis of your main offer for some time?
I think it took me a solid 9 months before I really figured out like, okay, and even now I'm still like, I've got the membership, so I'm still iterating here. Like the business is still ebbing and flowing. I talked to one of my buddies, Jason Bradwell, who started around the same time. He hosts B2B Better, and he told me when he started, he's like, I'm going to give myself a year just to figure it out. Like, I'm not going to put any pressure on myself to like know what you know what I mean? Like, this is a lifetime, if you're in it, you're in it. And so I was like, I like the way that he thought about it. So I took some of the pressure off to like feel like I've got to have this really clean, like diversified perfection, like everything's laid out and it's this perfect model and it's just ebbing and flowing. Consistent MRR every month. I know exactly what's going on. And it's like, it's kind of messy, like it's still kind of messy. Like the stuff I've worked on, 3 months ago are the things that will come to fruition now. Like that's kind of how the business has worked. And so I can do my best to try to build up the products and expand on those products, which is what I'm trying to do now. But I think it probably took me a solid 9 months before I figured out like because I had taken on a couple of fractional roles. I was like, I don't know. Definitely not multiple at once, never doing that again. So
what didn't work the most? We all go through the things and we remember the ones that were really, really successful, but you only get there because you go through what feels like thousands of rounds of what didn't work. Was there anything that stands out to you that was like you said, fractional, like I'm not going to do that again? What was it about that fractional role that was like?
Yeah. And that was a tough thing too, because I don't even know if it was purely because I'm doing a fractional one right now and it's going fantastic. There was 2 that I did last year. One was a fractional and one was a project. And the project, it was just one of those, I underestimated the amount of time and effort it was going to take. Like, and how I build that I don't bill hourly. So I just, I try to do my best guess. And that one I probably overshot. So that was a learning lesson. The fractional one, it was just like, it was a very mature company with lots of like internal politics. And it was like, I learned then, like me as a consultant coming in, like that's not a great place to be because I can't solve all your problems, especially when I'm like the content marketing guy. I'm not coming in to be a fractional CMO or VP of marketing who's got, a little bit more sway here. I'm just, hey, here's Justin, our content marketing advisor who's like, go tell sales what we need from them or go tell it's like not great. So I think for me, that was a learning experience in terms of like size. So not just like, it's not just like role, it's role and size of company and what they want to do and what what success looks like for them. And because at the end of the day, like it doesn't work if they're not seeing success out of what I'm able to offer.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like we tell ourselves that you can come into any company. So you want to come in there pretty strong and fast, and you're like, I can help turn the ship around and we can do it through content. I think a lot of people come in and they're humbled by that exact same experience. And I've had that happen to me too, where you go into a company and you're like, turns out I'm the head of content. I'm not the CMO of this company. And there is a lot more between me and effectuating change than I thought there would be. And it's tough. I mean, how did you get past that?
That was one, I'm trying to remember on that one. I mean, basically, honestly, what ended up happening was like kind of just like a mutual, like, we're not, we're not going to renew. And it was, and it was like, that's fine. Cause it worked out for me. Right. Like it was okay. And so, but that was just a learning experience where, I had to come in, I had to try and do my best, but that's hard because I think sometimes too, for me, one of the learnings was like, what type of business do I want? Like, I guess another learning was like, I'm not building an agency. I'm not building a repurposing agency. People like need help with the execution on that. And I do that for some companies, but like, I'm not like building a grand scale to like, we're going to come in and repurpose. I could probably make a killing if I did, but I'm not going to do that. So it's just not the type of business I want to run.
There's a can of worms that comes with doing all of that for certain. But to know that you're not a good fit and to back off is just as important as knowing when to double down on with a client. You got to have the cojones sometimes to just say, hey, this isn't working out. And just, hey, this is your livelihood, right? It's like money is better than no money. Clients are better than no clients. And when you have to look at clients and say, hey, this isn't the thing, that's like next level of consultant unlocked, next level of business owner unlocked. And that's a huge moment. And I think we've all faced that in some way. But you were talking about like what you're trying to build here. You're not trying to build an agency, and you've built some pretty cool things. You just launched the distribution first community membership. So you did the course, you're doing professional services, you're doing the community. Like walk me through this iteration and kind of how you ended up landing on course and just how you think about balancing these revenue streams in your portfolio stuff.
Another thing that happened at the end of last year, like budgets were getting slashed. And so like even one of my most favorite clients, like we worked together for 8 months last year, like her budget got cut, therefore I got cut. It wasn't any like they like literally, and I had a contract with them and all this. It was set, and they were like, I got no power here. And so at that point, it was like another one of the fork in the roads where I'm like, what type of business do I want to build here? Like, do I want to constantly be, on the grind of trying to like figure out what I want to do? And then also thinking through like what, like you said earlier, like what do I love? Like, what would I do for free? Like, what do I love doing? And so for me, what I love doing is I love coaching. I love training people. I love helping. Like when I see that light bulb go on, I'm on conversation with somebody, it's like, motivating them to get to finally do something, like encouragement. Like those are all really, like I know for myself, like big strengths. And so it's like, how could I do that? And so then the opportunity came up to partner with Uscreen and be able to like build out a membership. And I was like, you know what? I just lost this client. I've got free time now. Like it was a bet to like not run and go grab more clients, but like slow down a little and try to build this thing out, knowing, all right, this will take a hit on me because it's a lot more work than I even thought building out a membership. We get into that. It's a lot of work, but I think when I look at the long-term picture for my business, like that's the type of business I want to build where all of the things can play off of each other and we can expand on those things. Once people are in the membership, definitely like, let's go deeper in a cohort. Let's go, do you want to go deeper one-on-one? Like, I just feel like it's a much better way to bring people into an environment where it's, because honestly, what happened was like, I had a course for $200 or I had consulting for thousands of dollars a month, nothing in between, like one-off coaching calls here and there for, hundreds of bucks. But it was like, there really was no in between of like, I want to learn, I want to be able to, do. And so that's where the membership came in and helped me kind of give me a good middle ground there.
Yeah, I've felt that same pull where I don't have the $200 offer. It's either all my content for free or hire me for thousands of dollars. And so I feel that pull. And a lot of people come to me and the first thing they want to do is build a course or build a community or a cohort or something. And I actively discourage a lot of people from doing it just because we got to get services worked out. We like work out the process and the program and really prove it out and get it airtight. And that's what I'm really loving about what you're doing is you went through so many cycles with clients and on your own stuff to figure out like what the hell is actually going to deliver here. Then you package it up and try to sell it in a different way. So you said it was a lot more work than you thought it would be. What did you mean by that?
Like literally, I had to learn like the amount of hours of YouTube content and things I've read, watched, listened to, podcast, like what it takes to make a good membership, right? Like I think in very small details, right? Like I think the goal of when you build a membership, it's a completely different, like the reasons why somebody comes in are completely different. You know, like my goal with the membership is to not be a sage on the stage. My goal is actually to not be that. Like I can help you out one-on-one on consulting and coaching in spots and be able to give you my advice. But the goal of me as the membership is a facilitator for you to get to know other people and to be able to, you know, feel like you've got an actual community. That's the reason you have a community is to actually be engaged with these other people and feel like, you know, they'll miss me if I'm gone. It's like the reason we join clubs and do different things. But I'm obviously like I'm a month in launched on this thing. Like I'm still learning the ebbs and flows, but you know, every little basic thing, what content to do, what types of things do I do? How much is too much? What's the expectations? How much do I charge for this thing? How much is somebody willing to pay for a monthly membership? But, you know, it's all a giant guessing game. It was all brand new. And so I had to like literally just rip the Band-Aid off, write the thing on the wall that's like, I'm launching on this day. I remember I sent the first email to the wait list and I was like, oh, like sick to my stomach because I'm like, geez, I'm finally doing this, you know, and got like 10 people to reply back and like interested in joining. I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path here. We got 10, you know, got the first 10. And so now it's just building it up from there.
There's something to be said for what I call it's the planting your flag in like a very public way. You're like building this thing. I'm going to do it. I'm going to launch it on this day. Like if it's ready or not. And it's always going to be, I think we're much more critical of our work and our craft than anybody else will be. So it's like from the outside looking in, it looks like you launched a membership that is like totally buttoned up. And then from the inside looking out, you're yeah, I have just been hammering away. We're listening and watching and reading everything possible. And I think this is what I have learned across doing all these interviews is that none of us have it all figured out. And it's okay to not have it all figured out. Like this is the mess is the process. And it's almost more interesting and it's more fun to do. It's like if you had it all figured out to the point earlier, you'd be like, there'd be little motivation to want to do it. And so what's your motivation? Like it's an immense amount of work to do that thing for, I don't remember how much you're charging for this membership, like the immense amount of work and sweat equity that goes into building this thing for the nominal fee you're charging for. Like what is your motivation to want to put in all this effort today and build this type of thing and build this place?
Yeah, I think the motivation is, I think it'll be a great hub to bring people in and be able to nurture and foster them in a way that is not an email series. It's not like it's not a training, a paid like it's a little bit more investment, like it's time and effort and energy. And there's, you know, we'll see how this thing ends up going. And for me, just like getting more conversation around distribution first and being able to test out new frameworks and ask questions and just be able to be with a group of people who are inherently interested in that concept is really cool. And then I think on the other side of it, I can help more people that way. You know, if I just think about like the impact I want to have, I can only do so many engagements. And, you know, I have a podcast and I go on podcasts and I post on LinkedIn. So I give a lot of stuff away for free. But I think in terms of like actually seeing like the course, I love the course because it scales, that people can take it. But it's a dead end zone, right? Like they might DM me on LinkedIn with a question and I can answer it, but it stops. And so it's like, what if there was this place where like you could take the course, which is included in the membership. And then if you got I literally had it this week, somebody watched the course and had a question about a particular thing and just could comment right under the video. And I can go in there and comment back, and you can get help, and then you can come in the community and you can actually, and so I think it's a really, really cool environment to be able to build out in a way that allows me to learn a lot, but connect with people in a way that is way more real than LinkedIn. Like if you're in a legit community and people will tell you like what's going on, and you can feel safe and you can like want to share those things, and then just learn and get better. Like I am a huge like growth mindset, like gotta learn, gotta get better. And I think for me, I truly, truly see a world where there are two different marketers that are going to be alive. And there's marketers who are baked into the traditional way of doing things. And then there's marketers who are able to like really do content marketing in a smart way, strategize about it, understand why, get performance without burning out, and being able to actually enjoy what they're doing. And so I feel passionate about that. And so that's a way I can be able to help more people. There's
something to be said for the compounding effect that happens inside the community that doesn't happen outside. When you buy a course that is isolated from a membership experience, for certain. Take me to the moment when you were like, this is the next iteration. Like you said, this client churned and you had this thing in front of you, but like, how did you decide this thing was the right direction to grow the business ultimately versus like, it's very easy to just go get another client, and it's especially in comparison to building this. Take me to that moment where you were kind of weighing those options.
Yeah. I think for me, it was a shift in how I wanted to run the business and what I wanted to do. Because I'd also at that time, like just come off of like a one-on-one coaching engagement with somebody. And I was like, and it was the first time I'd really done like a formal, like we're going to like do coaching with an individual, like a entrepreneur, business owner for their content versus like, say, advising a SaaS company, like coming in and helping their whole team. I was helping somebody like scale this out on their more individual level. And it was like, that's pretty cool. Like that's a cool thing to do. And I have obviously an email list and these different things, but I don't know. I kind of was itching to like create something new, like when I started the course, it was something new to learn and something new that I could sink my teeth into. And I felt like I had a direction for what I was doing. And then same with the business. Like, I don't know. I felt like I needed a spot. I needed something to sink my teeth into, even creatively. Like I'd been doing the business for a year and change, and it was just like, I need something. So, and that gave me that opportunity to kind of get creative again. And then, yeah, I just kind of like, I built it into the bit, like how I thought about it was like, we're just going to see if I can kind of shift the business model around the membership and see, like, not necessarily have to grow it into like a 3,000 person community, but like legit, like run the numbers. And I'm like, if there's 200 people in here eventually, like it's a very sustainable model of, running a business where these people are, feel like they're coming to a place where they're going to get help, and I can help them and I can get rewarded, and I can do it in a way that isn't tying me down to constant calls or constant having to like do services. So I like the business model. I like to create stuff. So like I do a weekly podcast. I do monthly trainings. We do Q&A, like to build out that stuff and like train people on stuff. Love it. Like it's not an extra lift for me to be able to do that. I actually get energy out of doing that. And so that was where for me, it was like, I could do that.
Yeah. I feel you on the creative work is so much more fulfilling in 1,000 ways. But you had said this one-to-one consulting or coaching engagement you did with that entrepreneur. There was something about the way that you described it that seemed like it was so much more meaningful, or it made a meaningful impact on you too. Because the way that engagement went seems like that was a catalyst, because it was the first one you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like there was something there that almost it changed your perspective on like what was possible. Like, maybe I'm reading into it, but
no, yeah, I think that's probably accurate, because I hadn't thought of myself as like a coach. And so some of that was like maybe a little bit of an identity shift even within the business of like, wait, now what's and sometimes it's semantics, but like, consulting versus coaching versus this, and it's like, what's the real difference there? But I think with an individual, it's no different than some of the stuff we talked about earlier. Like you can see impact faster. You can get questions answered faster. And even an advising client that I took on after, I kind of took a similar approach where it was like, I am going to like pour myself into these people and really try to get them to change not only the way they think about these things, but actually change the stuff they're doing. And I think for me, that's the most motivating part, is being able to actually see the change happen. Whereas sometimes, like, I'm sure like different clients, and like you can go in and help them, but you don't see the impact of that. You're not always able to like see the reality take place.
Well, yeah, there's the bureaucracy and the politics that you were talking about before, that it is like puts so much drag on your ability to do the job or get to where you're really trying to go. And when you work with someone one-to-one, they just have to choose in that moment to do the work. That's why I choose to work with solopreneurs primarily these days, is for a very similar reason. I had a similar experience. I was working with agencies and had the same type of thing. There's a lot of bureaucracy and politics, and it's hard to turn that ship. Not that it's not meaningful work, and it needs to be done. But when you work with somebody independently and you see that change happen at such a rapid pace and you see what's possible, and it's cool to see that other people are having a similar experience, because there's also a lot of solopreneurs out there that are probably doing exactly what you're talking about. They come from the place that is create 4 new things every single week, and they're burning out trying to figure out how to do this thing. And when you work with them one-on-one, it makes a massive impact on their life. I can see the through line between that experience and saying, if I could do that with 200 people at a time inside this place, the level of impact there is like insane.
Right. And that was the catalyst, like really like thinking back at it, it's like, obviously like on the business side, like it's so brand new. I'm just like scratching the surface as far as like how what this is going to end up being. But I think to that point, when I look back at like what I'm building and why I'm building it, and what, like, at the end of the day, money only gets you so far. Like after you make a decent amount of money, you start at like literally everybody I've talked to, unless they're just like, sick in the head or something, they get to this point where they're like, why am I doing this? Like, what's the impact I'm having? Like what's another job, And so I think we all kind of go through those things. And so for me, I've always been cognizant. I've said this for a long time, really since I started, Nick. I said, I want to build a business that I don't have to retire from. That's been my mantra. Like, I want to build a business that I don't hate coming in on Mondays. I'm kind of like bummed I got to leave on Fridays, or I'm happy because I know I can leave on Fridays and it doesn't matter because that's the life I've built. Like, if I'm going to run my own business, why would I create a business I hate? It just never made sense to me. So like, I've literally not done things, not taken on clients, made probably half as much money as I could, because it's like, I'd rather just have the freedom to do like what I want to do. Like it's why I built the business.
I learned this lesson the hard way when I first got started. I built a prison, right? I think that's like what you're talking about is I looked at my calendar and my calendar owned me, and I was like, what just happened? I need to fix this immediately. And I think what you're saying is build a business that is an actual business that doesn't look more like a prison. You don't realize what you're building when you're building it, but then you look up and you're like, oh shit, something horrible went wrong. Something went wrong here.
And I think for people in our space, it's easy, because I did this for the first year and I'm trying to do less of it, is like the hodgepodge stuff where nothing ties into itself, because like the context switching of this company to that company, this project to that project, this thing to that thing, like there's opportunity cost there for you in the long run. And it's like, I'm very cognizant. And again, with that like forward motion of like, this thing needs to be legit in 10 years. And I know I can't just run a hodgepodge business doing content marketing for companies for 10 years. Like, I won't enjoy that. I'm very cognizant of trying to build something. And sometimes I think sometimes I trip myself up doing that. Like, I'm too slow. Like, I get to my head too much in the planning phases, or too much of like, and sometimes I just got to take action on stuff. But I'm very cognizant of like, I don't want to do stuff that I don't like doing. And I don't want to do stuff that, especially if I can pay my bills and hang out with my family, to like, I don't know, like that's pretty solid.
It's building a business on your terms. Max Traylor told me when I interviewed him, and it just is a theme that keeps resurfacing every episode. Plan your personal life first. And I think it just sums it up so perfectly. Because if you don't plan your personal life first, your business is going to just railroad over it, and what was trying to become a business actually just becomes a prison. You alluded to this, and you're like, I want to do something that I love and want to be something I'm motivated. Why is this work meaningful to you, though?
I think because there's a real problem and people don't even realize it. You know, it's one of those things where I talk about it. I was just talking about it with somebody yesterday, and it was funny. Like, he's like, you described that so clearly. Like, how do people not understand? And I think it's be no different than you going in and saying, if you're working with somebody to clean up their offers and like you've built yourself a prison you don't even know. Like, people, like, for me, content marketers and market, like, you're building yourself a prison you don't even know you're in, because you're just like the boiling frog of like more stuff, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I don't even know why I'm burned out, but I'm burned out, and you know, I'm trying to do best. I'm trying to like get more stuff out there, and the stuff that I'm getting out there isn't actually working, and there's no ROI, and nothing's tied together. But this is what I have to do. I just have to do it this way. And I think for me, it's like really motivating to see people be able to like say, like, I'm not running on the hamster wheel anymore. I am doing it a different way. I'm able to do it in a smarter way. I feel like we're getting more out of our content. I feel like I can, you know, like all of those things, like it's so rewarding.
I've been on the hamster wheel before.
And I still get on the hamster wheel from time to time. Like, it's not to say you never, like, I'm off it for good. Like, you know, you still get in that. But I will say, like, even with the membership, I personally started at a floor of like, what can I consistently deliver in this membership? I'm not doing weekly lives. I'm not doing weekly trainings. I'm not doing, like, we're doing a monthly training. We're doing monthly Q&A, and then we'll do member meetups where people get to meet each other and hang out and build that community that way. And then we'll grow from there. But we're starting here because I'm not going to build this in a way that 2 months from now, sorry guys, can't do the second week training anymore, because, you know, like, I can't do that.
I like this approach because most of us tend to overcommit on the front end, and then it falls apart and you feel like you didn't get what you paid for. But when you do this in this way, it feels like, oh, well, I can actually add a second training. Like, instead of doing monthly, I can do every other week, and I feel like that would still be good. And now all of a sudden, the way people perceive it is they just got double what they were expecting.
Well, I think too, even with coaching, honestly, Nick, like, I'd be curious on your take on this as somebody who coaches people one-on-one. Like, I think sometimes we overwhelm people with the amount of meetings and the amount of things we want them to do in between meetings, and the amount of speed to which they want to get there, when it's like, as long as I can see I'm making progress and I'm not feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling pretty good. And so I think that was something that I'm super aware of, especially inside the membership. But then even I think I'm going to adjust some things, even in some of the coaching engagements that I've been doing, where, you know, giving people time to like think about the stuff and really understand, where it's like, does it matter if you do the POV worksheet in 1 week or 2 weeks or 2 weeks or a month? Like, no, like, if you get that POV worksheet done and you feel really strong about like how you're going to create, like, it's worth way more for you to spend the time to do it than to rush through it so you can hit a milestone. So I think making sure we're not overwhelming people with the amount of stuff, because the value really isn't in the stuff. It's really not. It's in that transformation.
It's in what the stuff amounts to.
Yeah.
I always tell people, because everyone wants to sell transformation, but what I've found is that transformation is really overwhelming. It's a lot for someone to accept and admit and agree that they want to be transformed.
Yeah, you're a new person.
That's scary. A lot, especially when you're trying to sell into an organization. Now, get outside of one-to-one, go into an agency or to a tech company and tell them you're going to transform them. They're like, we got other shit to do, dude.
Yep.
Like, I don't have time to transform. And this is what I'm so fascinated by your whole platform, which is like, this is going to do one really specific thing. Oh, and by the way, by the time you're done, just side note, it will transform the way you approach content. But you're not selling transformation. Transformation's an outcome that is really, really great, but it's almost secondary to the whole thing, which is we need to solve this one really particular problem for you. And the ramifications of that, or the benefits of solving that, take you to a new and different place. And I find the same thing with my own clients. I don't try to sell them this, like I did at one point. I don't do it anymore, which was this radical business model change. It's like, it's going to be this whole new way of trying to build a business of one. And people were like, that sounds great, but like I have clients and like I have a family and I can't put any of that at risk and this and it's like, oh, we need to solve one really specific problem. By the time we're done here, you're going to be in a different place. And that's really aspiring. It's very different than the overwhelm that I think transformation takes people.
And I've had to learn that too. I mean, I've had to learn that too. You know, I've made that mistake in pitching people and doing things where, yeah, because you think it's going to sound good, right? Like, oh, we're going to, transform the way you, and it's like, to your point, like I literally have to be like, we've got a lot going on here. Like, and so fast forward to an engagement I had earlier in the year, like at the end of it, talking to the content marketer that I was working with, she said, I love that you didn't change what we were, you helped us do better with what we were already doing, which is the shift I've made, right? Like as long as you're creating some content, we'll figure out a plan for you. It could be webinars, could be blogs, could be podcasts, could be YouTube, I don't care. But like, we'll just figure out how to take what you're doing and pour gasoline on it and just make it work better for you.
Yeah. All right. So looking back on all the stuff that you've built and this, like the membership that you've just launched, what is something you would do differently?
I tell everybody if I could, I would have figured out how to do clients and client work when I was still in house. I knew how to sell stuff online. Like I had sold the course, hundreds of these courses. And like, so I knew how to like do online marketing, but I had no idea what I was doing as far as like
professional services.
Yeah. Like all the things that go into it. So I tell like everybody who talks to me about like, oh, I want to make the leap. I'm like, do it now. Like do one client for like, even if it's the smallest thing, to like get your contract signed and like figure out what your offers are and like pitch them and build a deck and walk through a sales call. Like there's all of those things that's what I would do different.
I never considered my background in agency services. Like the time I'd spent working with clients, I never really thought much about it until this moment. But I remember thinking back to those first days of being like, this is an uncomfortable experience working with a client for the very first time.
Yeah.
And I got to cut my teeth doing that. And so going into services in this way was just kind of like, okay, I'm going to go do that thing now. But there's a lot of people who I work with who are in a similar position to you, which is they're an expert at what they do. They're coming from an in-house role and they're trying to shift into this teacher and they help other people do the thing. And that skill set you're seeing the stream of consciousness right now. This light bulb is like getting brighter as I'm talking about it. This is an unlock that I hadn't considered.
Yeah. Cause it's something I'm still learning, right? Like what, like,
same.
It's like, how do you bet like in every engagement, you're getting more refinement, you're getting better at that. And you're able to, take that learning from that one and be able to stack it on this one.
And how to lead your clients to a new and different place, to talk to them and say the hard things and help them do their best work. I interviewed Chris Marr, who's a good friend, and I used to work with him back at Impact, and his whole business is helping people become authoritative coaches, and there's a lot to be said for that. So I got one last question for you. What do you want to build that you haven't built yet?
I want to build a successful YouTube channel for discovery. So I have podcast, I have lots of good top of funnel stuff, but I don't have anything from a discovery standpoint as far as like search. And I think YouTube's a huge opportunity to be able to come in and how do I do X, Y, and Z around repurposing? How do I do X, Y, and Z around distribution on a particular channel? Like, I think there's a lot of runway to be able to own that. And I have not done that, but
I'm excited for that, man. Well, I'm a subscriber. Let me know. I'm your first subscriber.
Love it.
Justin, this has been awesome, man. Thank you for sharing your story. It's a lot of fun. It's good to meet you finally. I feel like I've seen you way too much to have never actually had a conversation with you.
Yeah, this will not be our last combo. It was great, Nick.
Right on, man, dude. It was good to meet you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Thanks, man.
Hey, it's Nick. Thanks for listening. If you want to take part in amazing conversations like these, then you need to check out Full Stack Solopreneur, where you'll get access to bi-weekly group coaching clinics, guest mini courses from legendary solopreneurs like Morgan Ingram and Max Trailer, and so much more. You can join right now at fullstacksolo.com. That's fullstack, SOLO.com. What would be your last meal on Earth?
Oh, dang. Last meal on Earth. Probably like really good barbecue. Like, I'm in Michigan. There's actually a place in Detroit that we always love to go to that just has insane barbecue, great sides, like all this type of stuff. So I'd probably do that, you know? Like, let's just go out.
Is there a meat of choice? Like, I love a good Kansas City style barbecue that has like burnt ends. That's
yeah, I was gonna say it's got to be, for me, it's like if I could do a half and half with like brisket and just like really good pulled pork with like nice sauce options for me to like play around with.
Say less.
So there we go, man.
All right, cool. I love it.